We have a quorum. Mr. Tucker will rejoin us shortly. And we are now called, Mr. Tucker, there he is, just on cue. We are now called to order. It's a great day in Kershaw County. It's a great day in this All-America County as we celebrate this week the 100th anniversary of Veterans Day, and salute all our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guards. And if we remember the words in the Bible of Isaiah, "Here I am, Lord, send me," and that applies to our first responders and many of you who are public servants that do so much to make this a great America County. With that, we're called to order, and I am asking you to stand for the invocation and pledge. Join me in prayer if you would. Come, Holy Spirit. Father, we give you all praise and glory and recognize our many, many flaws and our total dependence on you and these and all things that matter in this life. We ask you to descend here today and every day, extend your protective hand on all people in this wonderful county, and to this body here gathered today, inspire us with your special words of wisdom that whisper in the heart and shout in action that only brings glory to you. All this we ask in the name of the great friend and master of men, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. With that, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, we move to the first item, which is public comments. Mr. DeBose, can you help us out?
One person has signed up, and that is Rudy Smith.
Mr. Smith, please come on up. 5 minutes are normally allocated. There's not a question and answer. This is just to hear from you. Keep your comments on the subject, and we ask you to be respectful of the purpose of this body. Sir, with that, go ahead.
Certainly. Good evening. Thank you for your time, gentlemen, ladies.
Let's bring that microphone up so we can hear you.
Yes.
I think we're being broadcast.
Can everyone hear me? Thank you so much.
You're on national media, Rudy.
Perfectly. I thank you for your attention tonight. I'm here on the matter of Baldwin Avenue. I'm here to seek counsel to move forward on this. I'm a 25-year resident of the area, and what I'm seeking tonight is to have council reestablish the proper signage that prohibits commercial traffic coming through Baldwin. Years ago, it was placed there, but as truckers come through, they've actually knocked the signs down, and now, just to your remembrance, 34 and Highway 1 are connected by Baldwin Avenue. And the most egregious violators we have are the commercial loggers coming from 34, trying to circumvent the light there at the Shoney's and properly go over the bypass. However, they're coming along this road and then crossing Highway number 1, which is a divided highway. It's getting very difficult. I counted 11 vehicles in the last hour from 4 to 5 p.m. today. And so I'm urging council tonight to reinstate the proper signage and have it placed on Baldwin as well as where they ingress from either Highway 34 and Highway 1, so the truckers are able to see that in plenty of time and not make the turn, because in the past they made the turn and then they could not back out. And also we have, as you probably are well aware, the doctor's office that has been the last several years. And now I've watched a few people leave there, and truckers have to nearly lock the brakes down to keep from hitting when they pull out, not seeing them. And they come on Baldwin in an expeditious manner because they're trying to beat the light, to turn and burn, if you will. And that's what we need to try to stop tonight. So I would encourage you to move forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Mr. DeBose?
That's the only person signed up, Mr. Chairman.
With that ends public comments. We move to adoption of agenda. And it's on the screen. Thank you, Danny. Can we have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
We have a first from Mr. Gardner, a second.
Second.
From Mr. Arledge. Discussion. There has been a request for an executive session tonight on a personnel matter, and a lengthy one probably without a vote. And then there's also a request for a short discussion on a contractual matter. Any other discussion? Seeing there is none, let's move quickly to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, and we move on to approval of minutes dated 23 October at tab A for your information and on the screen for the public. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Tucker, a second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Connell. Any discussion?
Just said thank you to Miss Mary.
Thank you again, Miss Mary. No discussion. Let's then move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. The minutes are approved. We move to the first item on the agenda, which is a resolution by Kershaw County requesting that the South Carolina DOT post a no-through truck sign or signs on Baldwin Avenue, as we just heard. Let me read the resolution, then we'll take a motion. The resolution reads, whereas Baldwin Avenue is a state-maintained paved road known as S28-318 in Lugoff, South Carolina, and whereas Baldwin Avenue is accessible to Highway 34 and US 1, and whereas tractor-trailer trucks and other commercial vehicles are using it as a pass-through from Highway 34 to US 1 and vice versa, and whereas Baldwin Avenue is not designed to accommodate large tractor-trailer trucks or large vehicles or to accommodate through traffic. Now, therefore, be it resolved by Kershaw County Council to request that the DOT post no-through signs on other similar signs on Baldwin Avenue to prohibit the use of Baldwin Avenue as a pass-through between South Carolina Highways 34 and US Highway 1 in order to ensure the safety of the use of Baldwin Highway for non-through vehicular travel, resolved by this county council. With that, Mr. Jones, can you entertain the motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
We have a second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Bozard. Discussion. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the County Council, and thank you, Mr. Smith, for coming and speaking tonight. I think he said it all, and I think the resolution says it all. This is a danger to that community, and actually, Mr. Smith is not the only neighbor that has called me and complained about this and wanted something done. They recognize that it is a state-maintained road. However, they also recognize that DOT would like support from us before they place any signs out there, if I'm not mistaken, the way it goes. Mr. Carpenter, am I correct on that? So, having said that, with no further delay, I'd like to ask council to support this. Thank you.
Great. Other comments? Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to advise Mr. Smith, too, because I know he'll be involved when they started putting out, and we can remind the state, too, a lot of times, like the no outlets and the no through trucks signs, they're too far in. The truck's already committed. So make sure they bring it back out towards the main road. And I know you wanted signs prior to on the other road as well. I don't know if they'll do that because you don't see that as much. But if they don't, let's make sure that they put those signs out and they can be read from the road that they're traveling on before they make the commitment to make the turn.
Yeah. Other comments? Resolutions are excellent statements of resolve by definition. I'd like to suggest, and it doesn't require a vote, but Mr. Jones, I'd like to write a letter with our ordinance, and I'd like to carry it around to certain offices, especially our delegation, also to other locations that might be able to act on it right away. I
Absolutely.
quite agree with this.
Absolutely.
This is a great idea. Other comments? Okay, well, let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, and thank you, sir, for coming today. With that, we move to the next item, which is a series of 3 ordinances, all of them very important. The first one is a first reading of an ordinance by Kershaw County Council redesignating the Alpha Center Behavioral Health Center as Kershaw County's designated alcohol and drug abuse counseling and therapy agency, repealing a prior inconsistent ordinance. It's at tab C, and on the screen for your reading pleasure. Mr. Arledge, you want to make the first motion, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I would like to make the motion that council redesignate the Alpha Center Behavioral Center as Kershaw County's designated alcohol and drug abuse counseling and therapy agency.
Can we have a second?
Second.
Second. We have a second. We'll open discussion. I will say, Mr. Jones, did you wish to recuse yourself on this?
I will abstain due to legal advice on that. My wife is Mr. Paul Napper's deputy director, and he is a close friend, so having said that, conflict of interest.
Very good. With that, Mr. Arledge, you want to open the discussion?
Yes, sir. And one of the things I'd like to point out, we don't have a letter here, but it states that the Alpha Behavioral Health Center has been results of most recent commission on accreditations for rehabilitation facilities. They have been noted as being in the top 3% of the world for meeting the accreditation standards set forth for outpatient and prevention services for alcohol and other drugs abuse for children, adolescents, and adults.
And Mr. Napper is here, sir. We congratulate you. Excellent. We're very proud of you. Other discussion. Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just like to say, as you've already said, congratulations to Mr. Napper and his staff. He's real particular about who he hires, and this shows that because he hires a lot of smart people down there, and they work very well together along with his leadership. So congratulations, and we thank you not only for from up here, but for all you do in the county for all our citizens and this epidemic that we have now that no one really has one answer for.
That's right.
Thank you.
Before I ask for other discussion, and not to curtail it, I'm going to ask Mr. DeBose to review how this has been coordinated and why it became necessary to, quote, redesignate, not replace, but to redesignate. Sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. State law requires that the county designate a county agency or organization, public or private, for county alcohol and drug abuse planning, plus other laws provide for designated agencies for therapy and drug abuse. There's a prior inconsistent ordinance, which has been on the books for some time, which is obsolete, which Mr. Napper and I have discussed needs to be repealed. Also, this matter, in addition to that, has a finding that the Alpha Center is conducting and designated to coordinate and facilitate efforts to counter the opioid crisis in Kershaw County. So it does three things. It repeals the prior inconsistent ordinance, it redesignates the Alpha Center, and it has a finding that in addition to the state mandated functions that the Alpha Center is coordinating the opioid crisis in Kershaw County. So it's necessary, in my opinion, that council do this.
Very good. Thank you. Further discussion. Mr. Bozard.
Yes, I was back talking to him before meeting started, and you notice Mr. Hartley is sitting next to him. He's holding Paul down. Paul's trying to float up his feet. Congratulations again, the whole outfit and all your employees. Thank you.
Mr. Connell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Alpha Center does a great job. If they didn't do it, we'd have to designate someone else or do it ourselves. And I seriously doubt that we would be in the top 3% in any category. Not that we couldn't do it, but we've already bit off just what we can chew with EMS and taking on things that are traditionally outside of our wheelhouse. So absolutely support this.
Very good. Other comments? Mr. Gardner.
Yeah, again, congratulations. It's, not only do they take care of those that are in need, but they are very proactive in prevention of that as well. And I think that's very important as well, that we need to know that they are proactive in trying to prevent the problems before they become problems. So, again, congratulations.
Mr. Tucker.
Yes, I hate to take up much of our time here, but I want to say too, I saw Jim Tatum come in. I thought there goes there. Great article in the Chronicle that you guys wrote up on him. And Mr. Napper, to you as well, I think with having that article and doing the things that are going beyond and above, and I think you're in the process of revamping your plans according to what I've read and what I've been told. And so I just want to make my colleagues aware tonight. Please be aware that I would like to revisit funding at our next council meeting, so this will be probably on the agenda, and I will be in touch with you prior to that.
Very good. And I have a few housekeeping issues. Mr. Napper has talked to a number of us, and said he would want us to revisit that once he had his plan, and so I would like to see if he could be here for that too.
Yes, sir.
There's some other housekeeping in here. Embedded in this is our share of the local government fund that comes to us is then reapportioned to Mr. Napper as a pass-through. So we as a county are paying part of his bills, and Paul has been very good in saying that he wanted to be transparent about what we're getting for this bargain, and he is a bargain, by the way, and has agreed he would report to us, not because he works for us, but out of a sense of public service to keep us aware of what he's working on. I can remember when Mrs. Jones came in here at the start of the opioid crisis, and we didn't understand it until the Alpha Center helped us understand it. And this is not a role, the singular role of the opioid crisis, but it is the larger alcohol and drug abuse function that they provide that we must statutorily furnish as a part of our role as a county, and all counties must do that. So we're blessed with the Alpha Center, but paragraph 3 on the second page talks to the fact that he is willing and quote, shall submit to Kershaw County a report. So I'm looking forward to that anxiously, to hopefully see a decline in some of these incidents. But I think the realism is the point you made, Sammy, that this crisis is with us for a long time.
Yes, it is.
So that's my housekeeping there. Is there further comment? Not with that.
I need a piece of
Go ahead.
clarity, Mr. Chairman. Councilman Jones, this has nothing to do with the discussion. This is just to make sure that we have it right in the records. You're recusing yourself, not abstaining. Am I correct?
I'm
Right.
going to yield to the attorney.
Okay.
Which do you advise me?
Well,
to do?
he'll recuse himself, and as a result of recusing himself, he will abstain.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that's clear.
He
got it.
and I talked about this earlier today.
Not just abstaining, but recused.
You guys make my head hurt.
Okay.
He ain't going to vote. Is that all right?
Well,
Thank you. All right. With that, we'll turn to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous with Mr. Jones not voting.
Yeah, recused.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you, Paul. Congratulations, and to all your team. And let's continue the good work you do in the name of the county and of the Lord. I thank you, sir. With that, we move to the second item, first reading of an ordinance to authorize the execution of the amended and restated IGA, Intergovernmental Agreement, to use and maintain, as to the use and maintenance of Central Carolina Technical College facilities. We have our great director of the Chamber of Commerce here. It's at tab D, and I think, can you get it up on, is it on the screen? Yep, it's on the screen. I'm going to ask Mr. Carpenter to introduce the topic. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, as you're aware, the Chamber is determined that they no longer have the wherewithal to operate and maintain the Robert Mills Courthouse, and so they have been looking for a new location. They have, in their research, determined that locating out at the Central Carolina Technical Campus would be a very good move for them. That would also allow them to better support the missions and the programs of economic development in the Chamber and the school district, and ensuring that a trained and ready workforce is available for our business and industry. So in making that determination, CCTC is the keeper of the properties. Even though the county owns the building, CCTC is assigned use of it and allowed to use it for all of their purposes. So it's been determined that in order to allow this to happen, we must change the agreement between the county and the city to broaden it just enough to allow the chamber to be able to lease the property from the college. So Mr. DeBose has worked with them to come up with the language necessary to protect the county's interests and to ensure that the college is able to carry out what it thinks are in its best interest as well.
And before I ask for a motion to clarify, there's no money passing hands in any direction on this one.
On this one, no. No, the county, there will be a lease paid, as I understand, between the chamber and the college.
But
the
not for
college,
us.
but not the county, correct.
Okay, very good. Can we have a motion, Mr. Gardner?
Yes, sir. I move that we approve the IGA between Kershaw County and CCTC.
Thank you, Tom. A second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Tucker. Any discussion?
Go ahead, I
No,
yield.
I yield to you.
Go ahead, Mr. Tucker.
Mr. Chairman and council members, I guess this will be a more question for either Mr. DeBose or Mr. Carpenter. With amending this agreement, does it take, it doesn't take away our authority of who may come in next and giving it to Central Carolina where they can do this? This is just allowing the chamber to go in and occupy space. Am I
The
correct?
county
by saying
still
that?
owns the building. The college is responsible for all maintenance and costs related to it, which is why it's between them and the school. Our lease gave them full use of the building as long as they use it for, we had providing educational programs, including workforce skill training to members of the general public. We feel that that's very close to what they're looking to do, but it needs just a little broadening. At the end of the day, though, we still own the building.
Right, and I got that. Let me make my question a little bit more clearer then. If there was another nonprofit entity that wanted to come move in, would they have the authority to bring them in without amending this agreement as it speaks now?
Correct. No, we would still have the veto power over anyone else, so
That's what I'm
they
asking.
would still have to come back to the county if, for whatever reason, the chamber left.
Yeah, and that's important. I don't want the public to think that the county's giving up all its authority with the building and so forth. So, thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Mr. Bozard?
Yes, please, one more time. I missed something in there. I understood this agreement was leasing the college.
No, sir. Just the space that was formerly occupied by the county's economic development office. So it's just leasing those rooms that were previously used by the county. The college determined that this was a better fit for them than them trying to find a use for it.
Okay. Others? All right. Yeah, Mr. Jones, Jimmy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the county council. Just for the record, I would like to restate that I think everybody in here knows that I was absolutely against economic development moving out of that building into the Central Carolina building. I think Central Carolina could use that space for more educational purposes towards the students of Kershaw County. However, it's done, it's empty, and I am so happy that the chamber will find some good use for it. I just disagree with our economic development getting 3 times the space and not really producing. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Other comments? I'll have to tell you that for the record, it is not 3 times the space, and I'd be happy to show you my calculations, but that's another matter. Other discussion? Okay, very good. With that, let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, and it passes on the first reading. We move now to item number 3. Again, another first reading. It's going to require some explanation. We have a whole army of lawyers here to help us. Good to have you. It's the first reading of an ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of not exceeding $6,500,000 aggregate principal amount of general obligation bonds for Kershaw County and other matters relating thereto. With that, it's at tab E, and it's not on the board. What we have is a matter of explanation. Mr. Carpenter, how do you want to help us introduce this topic?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, as we have previously discussed with council, and our sewer system has reached a point, parts of it are well over 20 years old, that we need to do some system repairs, system upgrades, and some system enhancements. Specifically, we have pump stations that need to be totally replaced. They're operating far above their rated capacity, and it's resulting in them operating below what they could be doing because we're using them so much. Also, we're dealing with discharge odors, and current system is not really conducive to us eliminating them, so upgrading it will allow us to better do that. And we need additional capacity as well in the Elgin area in order to support their growth. We're currently reaching the limits of our capacity, which if that has occurred and we do not have a plan in place, DHEC will not allow us to put any more people on it. So we need to increase the capacity of the system as well in order to serve Elgin and that part of the county. So council is in front of tonight. We have discussed and gone over what the solutions are. The solutions are to replace pump stations, to add odor control mechanisms, and create additional capacity in Elgin by putting in place what we call the Southern Loop, which is essentially running a new line down Highway 12 towards 601. That will also give us the ability to better serve industry or development in that part of the county. So those are the proposed solutions. The cost of the solutions of those three phases, total of $6.1 million. What council has in front of you tonight is a bond ordinance that would allow us to issue those bonds so that we can begin immediately working on those three phases of this project. The revenue that is anticipated to support it comes from fees that will be paid to the county by the Palmetto Utilities Packlet-Milliken treatment system that they have recently opened in Kershaw County that serves the needs of the citizens of Richland County. So their fee that is paid will be used to pay the debt service on these bonds, so there will be no impact on the taxpayers of Kershaw County beyond the very, very few that are tied into the Palmetto utility system. So, Mr. Chairman, that is the background of the information of why we're here tonight.
Very good. So just to make sure I'm clear on that, we don't yet have the bond schedule in front of us.
Correct.
But that is going to be presented in full to us next week.
Yes, sir.
So this is an approval of the ordinance without the bond schedule.
Correct. Council will make the final determination of how long the bonds will be in effect for, 5, 7, 10, 15 years. That'll be a decision council will make.
I'm doing these for clarification, not to forego a motion. And the second clarification is there is no millage impact on the county. This is taken out of revenue flow from FILO, et cetera.
Correct.
Very good. So with that, I'm asking for a motion to approve the first reading of this ordinance.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve first reading of the ordinance providing for the issuance and sales of the not to exceed $6,500,000 aggregate principal amount of general obligation bonds of Kershaw County, South Carolina, and other matters related thereto.
Very good. Can we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Is that you, Mr. Kyle? Thank you, Ben. Discussion, starting with you, Mr. Tucker, if you wish.
Thank you. I just want to add on to what you said. You kept saying no tax increases, but there's no fees, additional fees or any increase in that as well to that. So I wanted to make sure that was clear. Because,
Use a fee.
right.
But no one in
Okay.
Kershaw County.
Right, not in Kershaw County.
Right.
Right, so I just wanted to make sure that was clear with the citizens of Kershaw County. Thank you.
Very good. Other comments, Mr. Connell?
Mr. Chairman, yes. In the presentations we've had so far for council, this allows us to take advantage of several technological improvements that have happened in sewer treatment and transportation. And particularly on the Southern Loop, it allows us to take advantage of gravity, which we had been pumping against for some time based on where the population was. So, this looks like a very hefty price tag, and in some ways it is. But I think we need to pay it now as opposed to addressing a decrepit system in a few more years instead of just an old system now.
Okay, other comments?
If I may.
Yeah, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the county council. I've always said for 12 years that Palmetto Utilities, Packlet, who they are now, were good neighbors to Kershaw County. And I was told in the past they weren't. But bottom line, I think, once again, I was right. And I'm very pleased with this. They're being a good neighbor to us is going to save our taxpayers a lot of money and help us to expand and renovate and move forward with the sewer system. So I'm very happy that this is taking place in this manner. And I look forward, I think we have 3 readings, right, Mr. Carpenter? I look forward to discussion in 3 readings as we decide the terms of this bond. And thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of council.
Exactly. Other comments, because I do have a comment on what Mr. Jones just said. Any others?
Also, Mr. Chairman,
Oh, go ahead.
I neglected to mention that Gary Pope, who is the attorney handling this for the county is here tonight, and he certainly can explain any of the boring, complicated, and noisome aspects of a bond.
Let me pick up on that, and we're certainly willing to ask him to speak tonight, but I've also asked him to come next week, because that is when I propose we get into the details that Mr. Jones said of the bond.
You mean next 2 weeks?
Yeah, in the next meeting, which will be the 27th. And the way I'm thinking about constructing this, and if you just listen for a second, make sure that this suits your needs, is we'll pass out tonight a draft of what the bond structure may look like with different payments over each year, first thing. And then when we meet on the 27th, as Al said, in 2 weeks, on the 27th, we'll have it as a scheduled discussion for vote, but we will go into executive session before we vote, so each of you can have your chance at the bond attorney at that time, and then we'll come out of executive session and go into a vote. If that's okay, that gives you more time to study, get your questions out before, and then as a body in executive session, meet with the bond attorney, if that's okay. But we'll construct that a little later on. But to Mr. Carpenter's point, if you want to ask questions, we're certainly willing to do that now, but I leave it to you to accept what I offer there. Yeah, Mr. Tucker.
Just want to make clarity so we all be on the same wavelength here. So we'll have it back on for second reading underneath our ordinance, but we will go in executive session and then come back out, and then we would take up the ordinance on its second reading. Is that what you're stating?
Yeah,
Okay.
good, thank you.
That was a little shorter, too.
And you didn't use accuse, recuse, abstain. I thank you for that. Other comments? Back to you, Mr. Carpenter or Mr. DeBose, to give us any final discussion on that issue, advice. Okay, that's pretty straightforward, and we'll see you on the 27th, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. I wish you a happy Thanksgiving. With that, I think we're ready for a vote. Okay, all those in favor of this motion on first reading signify by raising your hand, and it's unanimous. Thank you very much. We move now to the next item, which is new business, and there is none. We move now to council briefings, and I'll start with you, Mr. Bozard.
No briefing.
Over to you, Ben.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just a few things. December 1st, we've got the Elgin Catfish Stomp Parade coming up. Town of Elgin always does a great job with that, and you'll get some of the best catfish stew you've ever had if you go. Great event. The Kershaw County Survey for Vision 2030 is still active. When does that conclude, Vic? Mike? Yep. What's that? Okay, so we've got a month, roughly month and a half plus, to make sure we get some input on that. So encourage folks to contribute, put input in. And then the Lights of Lugoff is December 8th. And lastly, I just wanted to mention the Toy Roundup in the spirit of Thanksgiving, which is next week. Elgin Toy Roundup is it's a great cause. It raises funds, gathers toys, gathers food for families in need for this time of year. And while we should always be charitable, I think, and looking out for and trying to care for and help others who need it, our hearts are particularly close to it with the upcoming week and being close to family. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jones.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, thank you very much. Just a few remarks quickly. I would like to expand upon my remarks at our last meeting about my significant concerns about the failure of our economic development efforts. I believe one of the main reasons that the economic development has come off the rails in our county is a lack of monitoring and oversight by this county council. All we are getting is the same propaganda that the community is getting. We deserve more and should demand more. Another problem is that we have no metrics to assess where we are in terms of economic development and our local economy in general. Without legitimate and consistently monitoring data, we are simply shooting in the dark. To address the need of more oversight and the lack of metrics, I would propose the following, which I hope council will support. I think it's good common sense. First, we could convene a group of local business people through the chamber and economic experts from the Santee Lynch's Council of Governments to identify a list of what I would call dashboard indicators. Such indicators would give us an ongoing view of the condition of our local economy and of the effectiveness of our economic development efforts. It would be especially appropriate to involve the COG because the COG was so very instrumental in the development of our 2030 vision plan. Second, once these indicators are developed and adopted by council, council would receive a quarterly report on them at a regular meeting. Further, these indicators would be posted on the county's website. This data would be used to make the necessary adjustments and to make plans for the future. I sincerely believe that this approach would result in both increased effectiveness of our economic development efforts and stronger public transparency and accountability. And I have one more comment to make. I just want to say that Julie Trott, who does donuts and coffees for our veterans, and she also handles and oversees a barbecue for the veterans, was given a resolution this morning presented by Chairman Burns. He did a fine job on it, and I just appreciate all she's doing and appreciated this council's support on that. Having said that, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, that concludes my report.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Arledge?
Yes, sir. I would like to take just a moment. Mr. Carpenter, please pass on the congratulations to the group from the voter registration office. They did a great job. I went around and not monitoring, but just checking around to see what kind of complaints or problems or issues were out there. And they did a really good job on such a strong turnout. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Three things here. First of all, ditto to what Mr. Arledge said. Congratulations to all of you, whether you had opposition or not, on another 4 years of returning up here to this great place of our county council. I think I called it the pew last time. Some of y'all need prayer, though. We got a preacher coming, though. I also want to just let you know that I'll be headed out this weekend, going to SCART, which is our South Carolina State annual conference for the governments of council. So hopefully we can learn some stuff and bring in some new ideas and things. And then I just want to say to all of my colleagues, staff, and the folks here, happy Thanksgiving. Probably will not see some of y'all before then. Be safe during the holidays, travel safe, and just take care of yourselves. God bless. Thank you.
Sir, Mr. Gardner?
Just a couple things, just to remind you that we do have a couple football teams still in the playoffs, Camden and North Central. North Central hadn't had a lot of success over the years, but they had a great year, and they're continuing to play. So I'm sure they would appreciate any support that you could give them there. So just want to mention that.
Yeah, excellent. And also, wrestling season started this past Saturday. The coach there with all the other coaches showed up, and we had a great scrimmage, and so I can't wait to see the winter sports as they get kicked off. I got a couple of points, and then we'll move on in the agenda. We have a tax sale coming up on Tuesday, is that right? It'll be here. It's already, public notices have already gone out.
14th.
Tomorrow, excuse me.
14th.
Yeah, 14th, thank you very much, tomorrow. Secondly, tax notices have gone out against the new assessment. I congratulate members of council who've been taking phone calls as these tax notices went out where there may have been an error and where there was not. I congratulate our staff for explaining why there was a change in these tax notices. It's very important, and our citizens know that we are responsive in this important time as tax notices come out, and provide them the proper channel to resolve their questions. And I ask you to continue to help us do that. I would tell you, Mr. Tucker said that we have a new councilman coming in to replace Mr. Arledge. The United Way sponsored a chili cook-off, and he won it. Mr. Snodgrass is the best chili cooker in the county. And I have found that to be highly disputable. There are plenty of people that want to challenge him on that point.
Right.
I bet you could beat him, Ben. Come on.
Are we talking wrestling or what?
We're talking chili, important stuff. Mr. Connell mentioned the survey. I add that again. Vision 2030 is very much alive as a document. It's what guides us year to year with our mid, long, and short-term objectives that we set out for ourselves during the budget. Mr. Conley reports to me we've already had 500 submitted in less than a month. That's great. And I ask the people of the county to give us feedback on the direction we're taking on Vision 2030. Mr. Carpenter, are you going to mention the trophy?
I am.
Good. And with that, I turn it over to the administrator. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd like to ask, since I didn't do it, would you mention Lugoff Fire Department?
Oh, my goodness, absolutely.
50 years, I don't know how that.
Yeah, we can't let
We
that
have the
pass.
assistant chief out there as well.
Yeah, we got Lugoff Fire Department celebrated its 50th anniversary. That is amazing. It tells you what a county can do when the citizens rise up and say they've got a problem and they want it solved. It was a great session, wasn't it?
And you have a proud mama sitting out there too of her
Oh, yeah.
assistant fire chief.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. Okay, Administrator, take it off.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, a few items for you. First of all, I will, as you have indicated, I have in front of me a trophy. The trophy is actually not mine. It is Mr. Conley's. He received it as part of a recognition of the planning process we went through in coming up with the Black River Road Corridor Study, which, again, takes into consideration the fact that as a community, we try to work together and not opposed to each other. So it included engineers and architects, but the city, the county, the school district, the state, the delegation, anybody, business people in that area, trying to make sure that the study reflected the needs and also was a study that was generated with input from everybody. And it pays off, the outstanding planning project for a small urban jurisdiction in South Carolina. So, Mr. Conley, your staff, and please extend to them our congratulations on that as well. Another award, Parks and Rec received an award at the Trick-or-Treat Trail, which, as you may recall, was a couple weeks ago around Halloween. And again, large turnout of kids. If you've never been, I say this every year, I encourage you to go next year. It just feels really neat to see a line stretching around the building of kids in costumes and parents sometimes in costumes with the kids. And then you go inside, and so many community organizations have put a lot of time and effort into creating the booths and the vignettes that the kids walk through. Some of them are miniature haunted houses, and they go really above and beyond. And our department, even though they sponsor the organization or the event itself, the Junior Welfare League actually conducts, and they presented our own guys the third place award in that one. So I do encourage you to next year get out there if you can. Reminder to council that Thanksgiving next week, 22nd, county offices will be closed on Thanksgiving and the day after as well. And then, as Mr. Connell was talking, it brought to mind that, we're always looking to maximize our opportunity to generate revenue, not at the expense of taxpayers. So we're looking into raising catfish in our sewage ponds. So, we I think by next year we might have a salable commodity. So,
Who's eating them?
I'm sure the town of Ellis will be
Catfish stop.
excited. So,
Yes, right. Yeah, they'll be exported. You're right, Ms. Mary.
And then as a final, Mr. Chairman, regarding the glitch with the tax notices, as of 5 o'clock today, we've had 71 that have been handled and addressed. It appears that they are significantly, if not almost totally, affecting land, ag land, rural property as opposed to commercial or residential. So that's good in that respect because it's not affecting people's houses, it appears. The company that has developed the software is working now to come up and narrow down and come up with exactly who is affected, so we can then reach out to everybody proactively and make sure that they get the correct tax notice, and if they've already paid, to get a reimbursement for what they paid. So any expense that is affected with this, to the degree that the company is responsible, and we feel that it is, because they're the ones who generated the program and the update to it, they'll pick up the cost. So this won't be a cost that we would expect the county taxpayers to pick up, because it wasn't a problem caused by anything the county has done. That, Mr. Chairman, is my report.
Thank you. Mr. DeBose?
I have nothing, although, Mr. Chairman, you did indicate that you're going to have an executive session, I believe you said, for personnel matter and a contractual matter.
Okay, very good. I move now to the next item, which is an executive session, as announced as a personnel matter asked by Mr. Tucker, and I have a short update on the contractual matter. Can we have a motion to go to executive session?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
And a second.
Second.
Second for Mr. Gardner. On discussion, there is no vote anticipated or required. So we expect to come out without a vote and adjourn thereafter. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would like to ask us to handle the contractual matter first, because we'll need
It'll
Mr.
be
Carter.
very simple. It'll be about
Yes.
2 minutes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Others? Mr. Tucker?
Well, I'm pretty sure, we didn't say it in the motion, but the administrator and the attorney that we do need into our executive session.
We need them for the first part, but not
Right.
for the second.
Right.
All right? So, and we'll do it in the upper room?
Upper room.
Okay. Sorry. With that, let's move to a vote. All those in favor that we would adjourn for an executive session and return without a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand, and we are temporarily adjourned for that purpose. Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion to return from executive session.
Bozark made it. I was.
Second. Whoever second. Any discussion? None. All those in favor of returning from executive session signify. It's unanimous. We have a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Second. Second from Mr. Connell. Any discussion?
We've been here so long, let's just stay.
Everybody left.
That has to be an amendment.
We need a vote.
Is
Call
that
for,
an amendment?
There's discussion.
call for the question.
Okay. All those in favor signify. Y'all have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, same to you, Chair.
Thank you.